We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
And Fukushima and the lies and the false propaganda that's literally been released upon the world, and certainly the Japanese people. Now, we know that yesterday was the 4th anniversary of 3/11/11, that powerful earthquake that hit Japan. It shook the ground for over 6 minutes. It brought a tsunami inland 6 miles and left 6 nuclear reactors melting down. It also tipped the earth off its axis 4.8 inches and shortened the days by 0.1666 seconds. It also moved the island of Japan 8 feet, according to GPS coordinates. Now, 2 years after this quake, 26,000 people died. There was a report by the United Nations released by Huffington Post. This article was posted May 31st, 2013, a little more than 2 years after the 3/11/11 earthquake. And this is what the United Nations reported. The evacuation of tens of thousands of people helped prevent rising cancer. I said help prevent rising cancer rates and other health problems after Japan's Fukushima nuclear disaster, the world's worst in 25 years, according to the United Nations scientists. The radiation exposure following the reactor meltdowns more than 2 years ago did not, I repeat, did not cause any immediate health effects. What? Are you serious? The United Nations, that is your report?
How much of a disaster is Fukushima today?
Well, Fukushima is possibly the longest running continuous industrial disaster in history. It has not stopped because the risks are still there. This is going to take decades to decommission the site. And then what is going to happen with all this highly radioactive waste, especially the molten fuel? Nobody knows.
It's like half the people that were out there, saying, no nukes and shut down the power plants, they're now realizing that some would say, nuclear is the best way to go for energy for the future. So I think it's natural to re-examine your beliefs as you age up.
Something else too. We gotta go. Of course.
Pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you see any role that you've had in this sentiment that we've seen where people are questioning whether you're trustworthy?
Well, I don't know why that's funny. I mean, did you have any in-person briefings? I don't find it funny at all.
I'm sorry. I've read an analogy that this is like removing a cigarette from a crushed pack.
Take
that analogy, TEPCO engineer Masayuki Ono told us, and imagine that it's like the cigarette in that box is lit.
So you're saying it's even more difficult than that? I think so.
Some may have concerns about Fukushima. Let me assure you, the situation is under control. It has never done and will never do any damage.
And that means building a new generation of safe, clean nuclear power plants in this country. Many Americans are also worried about the potential risks to the United States. So I want to be very clear. We do not expect harmful levels of radiation to reach the West Coast, Hawaii, Alaska, or U.S. territories in the Pacific. That is the judgment of our Nuclear Regulatory Commission and many other experts.
You're a liar! Are you lying to me? Are you a liar? Are you lying to me? Are you a liar?
When does the lying stop? When does the lying stop? When does the lying stop?
If Japan has nothing to hide, why are they hiding Japan? Why does Japan not even exist anymore? Why is it that I can show you endless lies. Now, for 988 days, I believe this is, of endless lies. Just endless. Lie, non-stop. That's your legacy. It's never told the truth once. Not a single time. Not one freaking time have they told us the truth. Fabrication, misdirections, misrepresentation, and outrageous, deadly, vicious lies.
Why is this being downplayed? Is it a liability issue, or do they want to prevent panic? Do you have any ideas why this is being minimized?
I know someone who's very highly placed in the State Department, and the United States government has come up with a decision. And I don't know whether it's influenced by a fear of panic or commercial interests or whatever, but I do know that the United States government, at the highest levels of the State Department, as well as other departments, FDA and on, have made a decision to downplay Fukushima. And I can't speak for the Canadian counterparts, but I will say that back in April, Hillary Clinton signed a pact with her counterpart in Japan, saying that she agreed that there are no problems with Japanese food supplies, and we would continue to buy them. So we are not sampling this material as it comes into the country because our government, the U.S., has made a decision, strategic decision, to downplay it. I don't know if that's because they want to support the Japanese government or whether they want to support the nuclear industry, but I do know that that decision was made at the highest levels of government.
They'll be calling you a radical, back to Fukushima and fainting goats, the epic denial. You know, look, the American populace heard it off the fucking cliff. Good sheep, good sheep, good sheep.
We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu was trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Japan is going to kill the planet. This is killing the planet. Not going to kill the planet, it's killed the planet, essentially already. The upper mammals, the way up the food chain, like us, are the last to go. We're the apex predators. The microscopic world is the first to go. The bacteria, the insects, the 4 million species in the ocean, Pacific Ocean, that you don't even conceive. You can't even wrap your mind around. Have paid the price already. The shorelines are full of emaciated whales and seals and sea lions and birds and mammals and animals. And so at what point will we admit we need to deal with a serious issue? If this was Ebola, everybody would be freaking out because Ebola is highly visible. But the nuclear industry has this entire apparatus meant to silence dissent. Because they're thugs. They run in packs. They have no conscience. We're talking about the death of the Pacific Ocean. Not maybe. Not, oh my goodness, this could happen. And you're starting to see little tiny signs. No, we're talking about an extinction event. This is 100% documented at this stage. Will you fight for the planet? Will you fight for your own life? If someone's trying to attack you with a knife or a stick, are you just going to stand there and say, okay, go ahead? Are you gonna fight for your life? Well, how about it's invisible? And so the media tells you about Ebola and it's invisible and you react. You follow it everywhere. You wash your hands all the time. You go through great lengths to try to avoid it and demonize anybody that might have it. And this is on purpose. You're being trained to consider one threat but not another. I'm not like you. I understand the ecosystem quite well long before Fukushima. I had 7,000 lectures on nuclear. And I've done 260 days plus on this coastline of Canada, from one end of Canada to the other end of Canada, and documented the species. I went into the tidal zones, boots on the ground. Took my time and meandered month after month after month. Documented it and showed it's an extinction event. And you better wake up. I'm tired of your excuses. I'm tired of your betrayals. I'm tired of you sitting there in silence. I'm tired of you rejecting the facts. I'm tired of you playing stupid. I'm tired of you being a bubblehead. I'm tired of you being a self-centered, egotistic, arrogant pricks. I'm tired of your pompous, hubris nature. That is done. Your days are done. Your fucking easy ride is over. We're into a new age world. We're talking about an extinction event playing out right before your eyes. You're going to wake up at the last second and you're going to shit your pants. You're going to panic. You're going to get fucking stomped by the mob like everybody else. Because you created the mob. You are the mob. Lie after fucking lie. My apologies. Today is the day I might swear a bit. We're talking about an extinction event and then demonizing me. What? For going to taking pictures and saying, hey, where did all the species go? Now I'm a bad fucking person, am I? Now I'm the demon because I went out and what? Took pictures and said, hey, the species are gone. Fukushima. Oh, can't be nuclear, dangerous like a banana. Yeah, but you can't say that with science. You can only say that as a prick. You can only say that as a monster. You can only say that because you're a moron. Because you're a bird brain. Because you can learn about everything else. You can learn everything there is about Oprah or Brad Pitt or your favorite fucking hockey team or soccer team or sport or newscaster. You can't fucking learn a thing about real life. You can't wrap your mind around that there's more things on the planet than humans, that there's 8 million species here, and that we are the stewards, whether we like it or not. This is our obligation. You can find money for all your toys and your fancy lifestyle, and to hide away from the truth and hope that it solves itself is not. It might have done it every other time, but it ain't going to solve itself this time. You're going to have to pick a side. You're going to be a monster, or you're going to be with the other 8 million species. Well, I should say 4 million, because we killed half the species already in the last 6 years because of Fukushima.
It all depends on the particulars of this explosion. If this explosion...
Should I get out of here?
Yeah, I hear you, Anderson. And of course, I want to err on the side of caution for you here. My guess is that you're okay, but I don't want you to sue me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But
Earthquake and tsunami of 2011, leading to the country's worst nuclear disaster. We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011, leading to the country's worst nuclear disaster. We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011, leading to the country's worst nuclear disaster. We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled.
He certainly wasn't forced into it, but he was challenged by the journalists repeatedly during these very long press conferences. They can last about 5 hours, to prove that what he was saying was true, that this decontaminated water was safe. And that's why he says he chose to drink it in front of the journalists, to very publicly put on display his faith in the decontamination process. Now, this water is from essentially a radioactive puddle inside the Fukushima nuclear plant. Lots and lots of water accumulated there as the reactors were hosed down. Now, much of it has been decontaminated since, and it's being used for tasks around the power station, things like watering plants. And what Mr. Sonoda was being challenged on was whether that practice was safe. So even though this water is not for human consumption normally at the plant, he decided he was
going to drink it.
I will give you my conclusion first. It poses no problems whatsoever. I ask that you read through the headlines and instead appraise the true situation.
Bozo the clown drinking Fukushima peach juice. It's the carnival inside the country's head. Whatever way you like it. Radiation trade deals. You know, you got to have something to wash down that chlorinated chicken. Free peach juice will grow some hair on your mutant Tories. He was there knocking it back like a Jaeger bomb peach Fukushima bomb with Anna Soubry and Nadine Dorris egging him on. Do it, do it.
And all of Japan is radiated, and Arnie Gunnarsson is out there saying nothing hit North America, ignore everything, listen to him only. The death ash was obviously dispersed everywhere after Fukushima's releases. Hot particles attaches to clothes, and the media brainwashing the public. And it showed up everywhere because they're picking it up everywhere, yeah? Because the buildings are actually destroyed. I'm your host, Dana, the nuclear proctologist at .org. And I'm currently the holder of 6 gag orders here in Canada. I got the record for gag orders. We call them gold medals for activism. They're nothing to be ashamed of. Quite proud of them. I'm gonna get it tattooed on my old dried up skinny bones one of these days. The man who pleaded for sanity. And when telling the truth became a crime, then we knew the world had changed forever. And now we live in that world. And now we are gonna reclaim that world. This is our world. And we are going to claw back from the grips of all the crazies. With man-made radiation. But when he's talking about it publicly, about the accident, he claims it's like eating peanut butter, like spending 20 days in New York, like driving 600 kilometers in a car. These are, you can't ignore the fact that he's lying.
Well, in terms of the actual risks, there aren't any that anybody needs to be worried about.
We got the head of NASA and now the head of the climate change movement, the 350.org inspiration, James Hansen.
There are multiple reasons, I think, why there's opposition to nuclear power plants. Nuclear energy is harder for people to understand, the idea of radiation. I mean, radiation is natural. The Earth is bombarded by radiation all the time.
So you can't have a conversation with any of these people without them flipping that switch and claiming that it's natural. It's everywhere. You're bombarded all the time. Repeatedly. This is John Boyce coming up.
Something too on the meter, just to mention, even though I spent all this time right next to the reactors, I received more radiation on my transcontinental flights from Tokyo to Washington than I did at the reactor site. So I tried to use that in terms of...
There's probably someone on the panel foolish enough to address that question. But I'll ask Dr. Vetter to talk briefly. You haven't had an opportunity. I know you're an expert in dosimetry and measurements. So,
well, the reason I haven't had an opportunity to talk is because there are no problems in the medical field.
Notice how everybody laughed. They have an incredible fear of anybody talking about nuclear. They lose their minds. Anybody dare talk about nuclear. Talking about nuclear is the forbidden fruit, so to speak. They will snap and lose their minds.
I have seen a paper which says that if, in fact, the fourth plant goes under an earthquake and those rods are exposed, it's bye-bye Japan, and everybody on the west coast of North America should evacuate.
And so he's talking about the building on the right. If it collapsed, it's bye-bye Japan and evacuate North America. Well, guess what? It collapsed. And guess what? It's bye-bye Japan, and we should have evacuated North America. But people like Arnie Gunnarsson and crew are the reason we never got the opportunity to fight for our future anyway.
It's a remarkable turnaround for Japan's Prime Minister. Plagued by corruption scandals, Shinzo Abe and his coalition party were on shaky ground last month.
Right, until the nuclear industry stepped in and saved them, right? Plagued by corruption. Plagued. No, not plagued by corruption. They're the very foundation of corruption. They're the very reason the rest of the planet now has to fight for their lives. It's because this piece of shit is back in control. Is that not the biggest betrayal? How come we're not down there bombing Japan? Shouldn't we be bombing Japan? Japan's a dead country. David Suzuki told you that, not me. But I already proved Japan's a done deal, and it'll take the rest of the planet with us. Shinzo Abe. So that means more nuclear waste, more lies, more posturing, more trying to sneak food into your country, more trying to get people to go back into the radiated communities so that they can't have a future, more deception. Well, it means the death of the planet, basically, with Shinzo Abe getting reelected. He doesn't care about anything on the planet, including himself. He cares about the nuclear industry. That's it. The military machine. All he cares about is misery. He doesn't have a good bone left in his body. I don't think he's ever had it.
Members of the panel say they can't determine if the accident has affected the rate of cancer among children. They've decided to set up a team of experts to look into the situation.
Radiation plumes from Japan will reach the U.S. West Coast tomorrow, have alarmed many Americans. Chad Myers is with us now. So, Chad, experts are telling us that there is no cause for alarm or panic, right?
Well, yeah, that's correct. And you want to know why?
Tell us why.
Because all of the graphics and all the animations you've been seeing in other places online that show this plume of radiation reaching the West Coast is part of a computer model that was run this week for a plume of radiation that escaped from Japan on Saturday. The only problem is there wasn't a plume. So all of this talk about this plume is coming to the United States is all debunked because there is no plume.
50 becquerels in your food. Japan is serving at 500 in your fucking meals. Where do you think that's going to go? Before Fukushima, 100 becquerels cesium nuclear waste. Like they will pick up 30 million bags, make fake fucking walls. They'll do anything but deal with the problem. Anything but bring in Harvard and Yale and Berkeley and Stanford. Anything. What, you don't believe me?
Fishermen unloaded the first catch at the port of Matsukawa-ura in the municipality of Soma. Mayor Hidekiyo Tachiya and members of the fishing industry gathered at the wharf and ate samples. They also inspected a facility created to test marine products for radiation. The mayor says his city will let the whole nation know seafood from Fukushima is safe.
Fukushima! Shigansai! Fukushima, now on sale, they chorus. This eclectic bunch of actors, comedians and chefs has been enlisted by the Fukushima government to carry out what some may describe as Mission Impossible, to sell the region's fruit and vegetables. And Fukushima, now on sale, is the slogan being pitched at consumers. Orders for Fukushima cherries are down 90%. So growers have come up with a rousing challenge to consumers. This grocer explains that the industry's summer sales theme for customers is, "Go on, be gutsy." The slogan has been printed on every fruit box, she says. Producers should be ready to fight back, she adds. Go on, be gutsy.
The division I ran built nuclear fuel racks for boiling water reactors exactly like Fukushima.
So they built them exactly like the ones for Fukushima.
Old TEPCO video. And Tokyo Electric.
Now this is Unit 3 he's showing you. In the bottom right-hand corner is what it looks like now. And the top left-hand corner is what it's supposed to look like. The reactor is to your left-hand side in the bottom. And the spent fuel pool where no camera or robot can go. Here you are, they're showing you a picture where there's a camera where we know it can't go. So it's fake. Because we know now, 6 years later, that couldn't have been done. See?
Electric had gone into the Unit 3 fuel pool just once. You remember?
Now he's claiming that people went into the building below just once. But he's not telling them, he's not showing this big picture. This is very early in the game. Now here's him talking about number 4. Now where the video of him starts out at is where the fuel pool is supposed to be. The reactor is to your right-hand side below the Geiger counter. That's at 211 counts per minute.
The Unit 4 was... was damaged twice. It was damaged by all of the earthquakes that occurred, and it was also damaged by a series of explosions over the first week or two of the accident. So the building is structurally weakened. Now Tokyo Electric's acknowledged that. They went in May and June of last year. This is more than a year ago, and put an enormous number of extra structural supports directly under the fuel pool to keep the bottom of the pool from breaking through.
Unit 4 was,
And so the building over here to your left is totally destroyed. The fuel pools are at the very top of the building. You can't get in the building. The fuel pools are not there anyway. Now I'm going to show you the depictions of number 4. Right? So the fuel pools are absolutely, positively, unequivocally not there. So Arnie, who made the assemblies, made the assemblies up in your top left-hand corner. This is, it's impossible for him not to know that.
In May and June of last year. This is more than a year ago. And put an enormous number of extra structural supports directly under the fuel pool.
That don't exist. And so he needs to apologize for what he's got done to us. Get everybody disarmed. He's still being quoted by everybody out there in the medias. Even though I've been just like any other subject, everybody would have picked up on it, and Arnie would have come out and apologized 6 years ago. But nuclear, nobody can talk about it. Nobody can call anybody out, only Dana. Now here's Dr. Christopher Busby. He should get his money back.
Having said all this stuff, I know it sounds a bit waffly, but I mean, I would like to wait and see somebody.
Now he's talking about the radioactive fallout making it over from North America. Listen to what he got to say about that.
They actually measure the gamma radiation spectrum of whatever it is that's supposed to be coming in and causing the irradiation of America, because it's very hard to imagine how there could be a 5-fold increase in natural background radiation from the sort of material that's coming from Fukushima. It's just too far away. But having said...
It's just too far away. So he's setting the stage to say, don't worry about it.
I mean, I had the same problem with somebody in Brazil who was finding enormously high levels of radioactivity in the water, and he was assuming it was coming on the jet stream from Fukushima, which is impossible because it's just too far.
Now he's saying it's too far for anybody in another country besides North America.
And it turned out the thing had a half-life. You know, he got some tissues and measured the half-life, put it in a plastic bag and so on. And it turned out to be quite a short half-life, so it was obviously radon. It couldn't have come from Fukushima, and I'm
It's obviously radon? It couldn't have been from Fukushima. So that's the end of him. Now, Dr. Helen Caldercott, she's got 14 books. She's the world's most famous nuclear activist. Listen to what she's going to tell us.
And especially Building 3 is very fragile. It's still got a huge cooling pool on its roof, protected by nothing. The molten core has melted its way down onto the concrete of the containment vessel, but maybe into the earth. And if that collapsed, there would be a nuclear inferno.
Yeah, it collapsed. It's gone. She knows it. So she's out there lying. Now listen to what she says about number 4.
Building 4 is also similarly fragile, and it's got a huge cooling pool on top with all its fuel rods, but they have been removing them. And it's been a very delicate procedure, and they've removed almost all. So if that collapsed now, I think it would probably be okay.
And so what I'm showing you to the left-hand side in these depictions are the buildings they're talking about, how they're already gone. They knew that, and these were the experts, right? And so they were lying, but they're the 3 biggest, they're still out there, they're the 3 biggest people on the planet, are activists, and everybody's running to and quoting all the time. And those people are doing so much harm. They're killing my planet, our planet. Now, when they have a nuclear accident in any nuclear power plant, they don't, and you need workers. They don't go to the other power plant to get the workers, right? Yeah, they do, Dana. No, they don't. No, they don't call in experts from Harvard and Yale and Stanford and MIT to do the work, do they? No, fuck no. No. Why? What are you talking about, Dana? Of course they do. Harvard will fucking run down there and fix shit. If there's a nuclear accident anywhere, they're going to come from all directions, all the major institutes. No. They got power plants everywhere. They got experts everywhere. Dana, they'll get them. No. What they'll do is they'll get homeless people at the theaters. They went to the theaters and took people out of the theaters. This is a BBC documentary. They went to the theaters, took people out of the 2 back rows. Never went to the nuclear power plant and said, hey, we got an accident at our power plant at Windscale, Sellafield in England. Let's go to the theater and get a bunch of people. We got an accident. It's okay. We got our own police department. We'll go get people.
Into the back of the reactor.
To push shit out of the reactor.
But the heat had melted the cartridges, so they'd become stuck inside the core.
Just listen to this.
They were forced to use scaffolding poles they'd found nearby to try and push the cartridges out. Radiation was so intense they could only work a few hours. They were running out of firefighters.
You don't work a few hours in that environment, folks.
From the factory had turned up looking for volunteers. And they brought a bus, and they decided the best way to get the volunteers was to go to the cinema and volunteer the back 2 rows at the show to go into the factory to, as it turned out, to help push the fuel rods out of the reactor.
So they went in, stole people from a theater to push the fuel rods out of the reactor instead of going and getting people. Because you know what they do without an accident? The first thing they do is they fucking run away. You know why they run away? Because it's not like a banana. And it's not like heat, which is such a betrayal. What a horrible... Can you imagine? Could there possibly be anybody worse?
If you are smiling, you will not have any radiation effect. If you are not smiling, you will have radiation effect. This theory has been proven by the experiment on animals.
チャンピオン、酒を獲得。福島の酒。
Amazing! 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 Amazing!
See this picture here? Every rock should be these colors. Loaded. Every rock on the coastline. Every single rock on the coastline should be loaded. And it's the same with all those starfish. Same with the highly colored starfish. The highly visible invertebrates. in the tidal zones. But the idea of putting the people on the beaches is to remind me all the time that, to tell you that you can fill the beach up with people, but you're still not going to find the species that are missing. You can fill that beach up with people, and you are not going to find those species to your left. This is an extinction event. It's an extinction event. And so at some point, this planet will wake up in the next couple of years.
And by the way,
but TEPCO has made some progress.
This is what TEPCO wants us to see.
The situation is under control.